Hi, welcome to Wall of Power TV. I'm your host, Paul Metsa. We are on site today with a gentleman I've known for years, a legendary Minneapolis artist, at his studio in Northeast Minneapolis at 22nd in California. I've been wanting to get my friend Aldo Moroni on the show since the show started 2.5 years ago. He's created dozens of works of art since then. I've been honored to see several of them. But there's a lot going on here at the studio and with Aldo, and we're going to get the whole story. We're going to start at the beginning. And Aldo, thanks for having me, brother.
Thanks for being here, Paul.
Yeah. Yeah, well, there was a wonderful article in the paper. This is your last show.
That's right. We're in Legacy Maker's Place, in a studio that's created with the idea that I would work here, other artists would come in and interact with me, other groups and other people would come in and have classes or dance or music, because I had this idea that I like community, and so a way to make a studio sustainable is to be inclusive and open, because then you can start to generate, what's necessary in terms of the money and the energy to create a viable space. So we were working with that idea all along, that, I didn't want to open another studio, but I had a design for a project that I had started to cook up about, essentially, research started 2 years ago. The idea maybe is 3 or 4 years ago. And it has a lot to do with the caravans coming up from what I refer to as Mesoamerica, Guatemala, El Salvador, the countries of the southern, just south of Mexico, right? So we don't like those people coming in here. We want to build walls. We want to put babies in cages. Well, this is crazy talk, and it's just intolerable. And as an artist, I think, for me personally, and I would suggest this as a model for other young artists, have your own voice, but also be about things that are larger than yourself. For instance, the world at large. And there are ways to be able to make art that has political content to it without it becoming propaganda. And I'm very well aware of the argument between the difference between, propaganda, pornography, and art. So there are different reasons what category these experiences fall into. In this particular kind of a situation, I like to be involved in works that have content. So that's why the storyline of the caravan, quote, quote, bothered me. I needed to respond. I did a couple of pieces. One was Trumptopia, which was a place that was built, a big, long, imaginary landscape. And then it was dark, and it was very, very moody. And then in the end of it, when I invited an audience into the studio, they came in and witnessed me destroy the piece with Brant Kingman dressed up as Trump. We destroyed Trumptopia and shook it loose, and then the Kremlin collapsed into the White House, and then we destroyed.
So it's real life.
So it's real life, yeah. My audience told me after the fact that it was just too dark and too heavy. This is too much. We can't cope with this every day.
You must have loved Diego Rivera.
Well, Diego Rivera, when we get into the Mesoamerican experience and the history of the Mesoamerican and the Cultural Revolution, is a part of the history of Mexico that's misunderstood by Northerners, by us, by gringos. It's like he's a fantastic muralist, one of the great painters of all time, a great model as an artist. He was a total dick, but he was a great artist,
And very political.
Yeah, and his wife, Frida Kahlo, is a great artist too. And they, along with the writers and the intellectuals in Mexico, in mid-last century, begin the Cultural Revolution that changes everything. As important as the history of, American art, which is funny, that American art means USA.
Right.
It doesn't include America, doesn't include Mexico.
Right.
But they are divorced, these two different cultures and their cultural experience.
Right.
And the work that happens in Mexico is very different from the New York school. So although Diego bridges it, you know.
Right.
But there is that whole kind of a very unique kind of approach to it that is a Mexican thing. More than being a Mexican thing, it's a Mesoamerican thing. So I was back to the studio story. I'm sitting here and I'm in a different studio where I was for a couple of years in between this project and another giant. But I was sitting and I'm just, I'm doing my work and it's fine. I've got some small commissions that I'm working on and I'm, developing ideas that interest me. However, I'm not really getting off, I'm not really happy with what I'm doing. And I'm at the point where I'm 63, 64 years old. I don't really care anymore about how I'm going to, is this going to make me rich and famous? That kind of went out.
Like Bob Dylan's song, I used to care, but things have changed.
Exactly. So I decided to start to look for a topic that was something to discuss. And I was also obsessed with the Trumpopian thing. And then I started to go, well, what's this deal with Mexico and Guatemala and these countries? And what's the history? And I had known a high school version of it,
Right.
But like the rest of us up here do, I really don't know.
Right.
But so I started reading about it, and it's the most fantastic story that you've ever heard. That occupies a period of time of almost 5,000 years of consistent urban development, sophisticated cultures, interacting with other sophisticated cultures.
Right.
To be able to finish what happens, I decide that I have to build a big mammoth sculpture because that gets my yayas out.
Right.
Number two, I decide that Donald Trump is out of his mind and that I have to make a commentary on that. Number three, I discover the real history of Mesoamerica and I start to become enthralled with that. So the answer is obvious. What are you going to build? Right. I'm going to build Mesoamerica,
right.
And I'm going to start at the very beginning, even before the Olmec, in the Tamuanchan, in a mythological place, and then up in the north is the land of Aztlan, and then that becomes the Aztecs, and then over the Quiche down in Guatemala are doing their thing, and that culture happens, the Maya. First one, the mother culture, is Olmec, and the Olmec, they're on the Gulf Coast, and the Olmec are a fantastic culture of huge cities. Teotihuacan is a gigantic city of the gods. We thought maybe, see now I'm talking like I'm an anthropologist.
Well, you are in a way.
We thought that, maybe 200,000 people, could have lived in this city.
Right.
And then now we have this new thing between a combination of the Etic point of view, meaning that this is from the insider's point of view. So our indigenous people start to contribute their stories into the storyline, which was written by the Spanish friars, who were the guys who were killing everybody anyhow.
Right.
So so the evil winner is writing his own history. They come in and start to contribute to the storyline, saying, no, this was a much larger culture, much more sophisticated than you imagine. And then it starts to get verified in science by new technology that can photograph the Earth through the treetops and tells us that these cities included millions of people.
Right.
They were very large,
Right.
Sophisticated plumbing systems,
Right.
really like, at Tenochtitlan, their market has seriously, Paul, like 100,000 people show up on Sunday.
Wow.
You know what I mean? It's like the state fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, whoa. Really. So this story is massive. So I'm going to work on the story in the studio, this one called Legacy Maker's Place. We got a wood shop and a ceramic shop. Now I'm doing my big sculpture. I've got a gallery where I can, do shows for myself or for others or that interest me. And it's all happening. It's all grooving along. I get, Michael Hike, a fantastic craftsman, comes in, starts building out the space. Gorgeous. The California building comes in, redoes all the windows. They redo the floors. Everything is rebuilt. Top notch. And that was our thing all the way through it. We went from a dirty workshop to a finished, sophisticated space that can function as a working studio for artists, right? So I got all this going on. You know, I got Remo Campopiano comes in and he's building these bases for me, elaborate, right? And all the finishes are excellent. And Lisa Roy comes in and manages this entire fiasco of a situation. And now I've got like outreach and media, and Remo's running the website, blah, blah. It's all going. I had been diagnosed about 6 months ago with necrosis of the pancreas, which is dead pancreas. So your pancreas makes all your enzymes and your, runs your sugars, the sugars.
Right.
It's all about the sugars.
Yeah.
So, you've got the pancreas is how you're digesting food. So if that's dead, you're in trouble.
Right.
But you could still get operated on.
Right.
It's not as bad as if you have cancer.
Right.
So anyhow, 6 months I'm dealing with this, trying to correct the situation, calm it down enough for a surgery or whatever. The spleen is also gone at this point from other infection. And I'm also a heart patient, blah, blah, blah. But anyhow, I'm going along in 6 months. Nothing's working.
Plus, you haven't necessarily had a Jack LaLanne lifestyle over the years.
No, I have not. No, I have not. I like the cocktail. Yes,
Yeah?
I do. Yeah. Yep. And I smoke.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, hell yeah.
Yeah, so I do all those things, and it catches up with me because after 6 months of diagnosis, then they start to get into it and they get serious and start doing scans and biopsies and such. And sure enough, it's 4th stage pancreatic cancer, which is always terminal. And a lot of my friends come, if you ate more pea soup, you wouldn't have this problem. And it's like, my Uncle Bob got out of this or whatever. And I got news for you, it's not that.
Right.
And when a person is dying, what they don't want to hear from everyone is, you should have more hope. It's like, you should get a grip on reality. I am telling you, I am leaving.
Right.
Yeah, and if you don't duplicate the key, you're not going to get into the garage.
Right.
I'm not kidding.
You and I, I'm a musician, you're an artist. You develop a pretty thick skin, but what has saved us, I'm guessing you, is you've got to develop a freaking sense of humor at some point.
Hell yes.
When they first gave you that 6 months ago, Aldo, was there more hope at that point? Or
Yeah, I mean, you go, oh, I got myself sick.
Right.
They'll do a surgery, they'll fix it.
Yeah.
So you have that attitude.
Because when we did the Hot Dish Revolution, I think that was January, February, you and I were judges. I hate to use the word celebrity with...
Yeah.
But you...
It's the only way to get a free lunch. Sorry.
But you were just kind of found out about it back then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, it was different. And but the second one is when the doctor sits and they get teary-eyed, and then you go, God damn, this is not good.
Right.
Not good.
Right.
And they go, I'm telling you,
Right.
you cannot have surgery. Yeah. You cannot, chemo would be able to make you maybe a little more comfortable, but you're not going to bargain any more time out of this.
But you got to give it to these doctors that are the ones that have to bring that news.
All the time.
That's not an easy gig.
No, what a strange job.
Yeah.
Yeah, what a strange job. And we want our doctors, and the medical industry to solve the problem. It's like how we want, somebody else is going to clean up the planet. It's not going to happen.
Right.
And these things really can. There really is, terminal is a real deal.
Yeah.
And my problem, that's one problem, but what we've done to ourselves is wow, we're that close.
Yeah.
I have pancreatic cancer, and so does the planet. Yeah, what are we going to do?
So how old are you now, Aldo?
I'm 66.
Okay.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I'm 66. I've had a very good run. I have absolutely no regrets about any of that. I've got 6 children that range from 40 to 21.
Well,
My youngest are autistic, fantastic. The 2 people that I prefer over all people.
I bet them. They're lovely kids.
Yeah, so we're together part-time. It's a big part of my life. It keeps me out of the dark bars, Yeah, it's a good thing.
That's why I haven't seen you in a while.
Yeah, yeah.
I'll be drinking for the both of us.
Thank you.
In
Yeah,
the months and years to
yeah,
come.
yeah. That's good.
2 questions. First, simply, how do you describe your work?
I fit into a group of artists who are trained in the 1970s in the United States in art institutes, universities, colleges, junior colleges, and then also in alternative communities. So these creative people are in training in a world in the post-World War II world. We're third generation New York school. And I'm trained formally within that art vocabulary and community.
And where did you train?
I came here to Minneapolis College of Art and Design because I could have gone to like 10 different schools, but MCAD's catalog had a bunch of hippies who were dropping pot out the window to a hippie dog down below. So, you know, you're 17 years old, you go, where do I want to go?
Hamlin? I don't think so.
Yeah. I think that looks real good. I could learn colored crayons and how to roll a tight joint.
Which served you both well over the years.
Necessary skills.
So, did it start for you young, Aldo? Was this like it started with Lincoln Logs?
I'm an art kid,
Yeah.
Yeah, always doing it.
Legos and...
Always doing it.
Yeah.
First memories are
Yeah.
pictures. Yeah. Right.
things together. Now, when did you really start to develop your eye and your heart, really? Because you know how art is so subjective in a way, and not in other ways, but you remember something you first saw that you felt?
Well, okay. So I'm a kid, and I grew up in Chicago, literally under my parents' restaurant. It was on Rush Street in Illinois, Rush and Grant.
It wasn't an Italian restaurant, was it?
Of course it was.
Well, I said for years when your name comes up, I said, if he wasn't an artist,
That's right.
be a damn good name for a boxer.
Yeah. Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice. I don't know. Is that nice? That's not good. No, actually, on second thought, that's not good.
Well, you are a fighter, though.
I am a fighter, but
Yeah.
when I was a kid, my nickname was Dino in my neighborhood. And,
I like that.
yeah, but there were two lives. So there was running around with my friends, getting in trouble, right? And then there was this other life on Saturdays. I used to go through a program called All Scholars Program for the Art Institute of Chicago. And they used to take kids from around the city and take you to the Art Institute on Saturday for classes. So every Saturday morning at about 8 o'clock, I'd go out of my house and walk through my neighborhood. I wouldn't tell anybody where I'm going because, you know, who would be involved in making art?
Right.
Dino don't make no art. So, and then I'd get on the L and go downtown to the Art Institute and then knock on the giant door. You know, you're a little kid and you're knocking on this huge door. And the guards open the door and they know that you're one of the kids who's a student, right? So then they let you in by yourself in the museum to walk back to where your class is. And you're in the museum by yourself. So I would go like in front of Vincent van Gogh's painting of his bedroom.
Right.
And I would sit in front of it, you know, and when you sit in front of a great work and you really can be, you know, it's not the 2-second stop.
Right.
It's not the checklist.
Right.
But you really sit and you get absorbed into a work.
The meditation.
And you get an understanding that there are people in the world who can make magical works, who make magical things that are not of this world, that have nothing to do with taking the L or back with what the guys are doing tonight, where there's a beer party or whatever. It's about a very, very sacred and important practice that creates sacred and important objects of art, objects sublime. That practice is real, and there are people who do it. And if you're a little kid, you're sitting there, you're 12 years old, and you get that in your head. Right. All of a sudden, it's like, you mean that I could maybe do that, right? So then you start to really, even though it's buried in your brain, and as you get older, you know, as they strip things away from you, which is what sort of, you know, a traditional education system is about teaching you to sit still.
Right.
No, don't sit still. Continue dancing. Paul Metsa, if you stop tapping on that desk, no, don't stop. You know, don't do it. Do it more.
Right.
It's you. It's what you're supposed to do, and you get that idea in your head, and it transitions everything. It doesn't drive you, but it's always behind you. It's like your grandfather's face. It's, you know what I mean? When you know you're being bad and Grandpa gives you that look. You know? It's like, you know? So,
Although
yeah.
my grandpa always let me get away with murder, and my dad was too busy to think about what I was up to. It was my mother I had the problem with. We're going to have much more with my good friend Aldo Moroni on Wall of Power TV. We'll be back after these messages. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Wall of Power TV. I'm your host, Paul Metsa. I'm having a most delightful conversation, if you watch the first part of the show tonight, with Mr. Aldo Moroni, a true, not only Minneapolis legendary artist, but just a Minneapolis legend, period. At the end of the last segment, he was talking about being a little boy running around on Saturdays at the Chicago Institute of the Art. And I was asking, what did your mother think of the young Aldo getting interested in art? I'm guessing she nurtured it, but...
It's usually the case, I think,
Yeah.
is that the maternal side nurtures the creative spirit. And in my case, it's definitely true that, she was supportive of it to the point, she had 9 kids. So it was not easy to...
Catholic.
And Catholic, of course. But it's not easy to be able to, get one kid, you know what I mean? He's got to go to art class.
Right.
You know what I mean? But she did it and got me there. And, tolerated an awful lot of, nonsense and insanity. The one that's the interesting story of mine, though, is my father's reaction to it.
Okay. And what was your dad saying?
My father is Aldo, as am I, right? And one of my sons is also Aldo, because we're like your hero, Joe Frazier.
George Foreman with 4
right.
sons named George
Yeah.
and a daughter named Georgianne. Keep it simple, George.
Yeah. So my father, though, who was a saloon keeper in Chicago, right? And pragmatic, and was also, our cafe served, Studs Terkel, Irv Cups in it,
Nice.
Siskel and Ebert, those people. I served them lunch every day. And
Mike Royko.
Royko, yeah. Yeah, so those people, the writers and the literary crowd in Chicago, which is a tough crowd, hung out at the bar. And
Well, it is Chicago.
Chicago. It's a different story. But many times I've seen them literally with the scissors cut the newspaper apart and then repaste it and send it back to the copy room to go for the next run. Seriously. Well, they're sitting because they're too busy drinking at the bar.
God bless them.
Yeah. But anyhow, my father comes from that kind of...
Well, that's why they say, Northeast, and we're going to talk about Northeast Minneapolis because after they kicked both Aldo and I out of South Minneapolis, we ended up here because the price was right. But they say if you've got into any basement in any bar, whether it's Nye's or Grumpy's, or Shaw's especially, you're taking your life into your own hands. And one of the beer guys was running beer on a few weeks ago, we were talking about that because I said, man, I've been down those stairs. It's a bitch. He goes, because the guys that built it did it for next to nothing, but they could drink all day for free.
Yeah. Well, that's about everything in Northeast is a little bit off, right? Because it's all made by Uncle Bob.
Yeah.
So everything, you know what I mean? It's like you can roll a marble across any floor, right?
Mine for sure.
Do it on the level here, Yeah, very funny. Well, my father was a saloon keeper and lived in that environment. So when this is, I'm going to go to art college, right? So the old man comes upstairs, wakes me up, and goes, "You got to get up, come on, we got to go to the airport. I'm going to drive you. Get up, get dressed and get ready to go." So I get up and then I put on like my Denny Terrio white, beetle boots, and then I've got my blue suede suit that's got the wide lapels,
Sure.
And some sort of stupid shirt to go with it, I'm sure. But then I, get in the old man's Cadillac. He drives me up to the airport, gives me a $20 bill and says, "Well, if you're really going to go ahead with this thing, I hope that you go into the commercial art because I know a lot of commercial art guys.
Right.
They make good money."
Yeah.
So that's his last thing is here's $20 and goodbye. And then
Not bad advice, though.
I get out of the car. I go through the airport. I have trouble understanding. I've never been in an airport before. I get on the plane. I go up in the air, and there's an imaginary miniature world underneath me, and it's like I'm just sitting there, and you can smoke on the airplane.
Right. Oh yeah.
Yeah, and if
The
you're
good old
18
days.
years old, you could have a beer.
Yeah.
And you're up in the airplane, and then all of a sudden, 2 minutes later, you land in Minneapolis.
Yeah.
So I get off there, get a cab, go over to the MCAD.
What year was this? 73.
It was 1972.
Okay.
So I go over to the MCAD, and then there's a bunch of hippies sitting around on the lawn and making music. And I go to this one woman. I say, is there somewhere I can get changed?
Yeah.
Because I'm just like a greaser from Chicago, right? And so she goes, yeah, there's a bathroom in there. And that. So I go in, I get changed into like normal clothes,
Right.
like blue jeans and a shirt,
Right.
And then come out and get high with the other students. Anyhow, I go to have a meet with Bob Hankey, who's the dean, and then he talks about, blah, 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 welcome aboard and all this. And then, okay, and how do you want to be addressed, And I sit there and I think about it because I've always been Dino.
Right.
And my everybody calls me Dino. And I
Right.
said, my name is Aldo Moroni, so I use my real full name.
Yeah.
And I become myself for the first time.
Wow, that's a great
The
story.
same day I walk away from home.
Beautiful.
And it's my father gave me a lot, but couldn't give me where I had to go.
Right.
That's why you get an education. That's
Right.
why you step out of your roots.
That's why
If
you
you're
leave
from
home.
a farm or the big city, it doesn't matter. The environment that you live in when you're 17 is the environment of a 17-year-old. If you
Right.
want to get engaged in the real world and be able to have some impact on the real world, you have to detach from your childhood. That's real good that you were the best basketball player in high school.
Right.
That's real nice, but that's not it.
Right. Anymore.
Your job on the planet is much larger.
Right.
Yeah.
I remember I stayed up, I went to junior college in my hometown of Virginia, Minnesota. I used to call it high school with ashtrays.
Yeah.
But I stayed up there for a couple more years because I wanted to spend more time with my grandfather, NE Mpls. And
What was his first name?
Emil.
Emil.
E-M-I-L,
Yeah, Italian name.
Yeah, and Finnish.
Oh,
But-
Finn?
Yeah, he's a Finn. Oh, yeah. Suomalainen. And I'm really glad I did. But I remember when I moved down, I inherited my grandma. She got too blind to drive, so I inherited her bright yellow 1968 Dodge Dart with a black hardtop.
Awesome. Awesome.
I wish I had it now.
Yeah.
But before I left, Grandpa put what I thought was a 10 or 20 in my hand. Right?
Yeah.
And he
Yeah.
goes, here you go. You're going to need some gas, get a bite to eat on the way.
Right.
So I stopped in at Toby's in Hinckley, and I went to get some gas, get a bite to eat.
Pie.
And yeah,
Right.
great, the greatest caramel roll in the world at Toby's, right? But I went to grab the bill out of my pocket, and it was a $100 bill.
Ooh.
Yeah. And it was like Grandpa's way of saying, here's a little carpet for you for your landing. You know?
Well, sometimes that's all you got to give.
Yeah. This runs right into something else. We have so many things in common.
Yeah.
And other than our friendship that's been over 30 years now. But I was reading an interview with you, or maybe I saw a video online, and you said most of your art studios right before that were strip clubs.
No, not right before. When I get evicted, right? Why
Right.
am I getting evicted? Because they got a better tenant.
So afterwards.
So the strippers come in because they can pay the rent. So this tells you where's the money. You know what I mean? It's certainly not in the fine arts.
Well, did you ever
Yeah.
consider the Chippendales, the Thunder from Down Under? You get a whole new thing.
Well, yeah.
Tony Moroni.
Yeah, Boney. Yeah.
Anyhow, let it go. That's dirty stuff.
But I want to tell you my little story. Strip clubs and musicians who play in nightclubs. So I used to play at a place. I got a gig on West 7th. I think it was called the 7th Street Bar. And it had been a strip club for 35, 40 years.
Yeah.
So who's ever has the bright idea, let's get rid of the strippers and bring in some folk music. And we're so excited about they forgot to tell the customers about the changeover.
Oh, yeah. Oh, boy.
So I'm sitting there. There's a lot of guys in what I remember, trench coats and hairy legs.
Serious?
That's all.
Yeah.
But I remember backstage, there was a sign in the dressing room, and it said, "Have your ID on you at all times, and no peeing in the garbage can." So I got in about good solid 30 minutes into this 3-hour gig. Basically, I started playing. It was me and the bartender. I played Leaving on a Jet Plane. I said, "Let's call it a night. Keep your money."
Keep your money, yeah. Save
This
it,
one's on me.
save it for the bottom.
So, how many studios do you think you've had over the years?
13.
13.
Yeah. This is number 14.
Wow.
Yeah. We built a lot of space.
Well, you were now, the North, the art scene. I mean, there's, you would know better than I. Did it actually drift over from that side of the Mississippi River to make Northeast the great art center? But for years, it was downtown in the warehouse district.
Right.
That's where you guys, that's
Well,
where you was.
300. Yeah, we had 300 studios, all professional artists, full-time artists, not necessarily making their living from it.
Right.
Because, that's, number one, it's not a valid criteria.
Right.
And then number two is a lot of artists are doing side hustles.
Right.
I did a lot of time as a bartender and
Right.
whatever I had to do to keep my family alive, So we all do that. But the downtown scene was 300 studios, Black's Cafe in the mornings. That's where that's where you had your breakfast. So it was like a small town.
Right.
And then that's how you knew everybody was still at it.
Right.
And then the New French Bar, a lot of people think, oh, well, the New French became famous because of all the literate people who, that's not true. They had 90-cent blats.
You're right.
That's why I went there.
Yeah, right.
11 o'clock, you'd shut your studio down. You'd go down to the New French. You could drink $5 worth of beer and get yourself pretty toasted.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Right. And still tip the bartender.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Wow. So anyhow, those studios and all those spaces became yuppified, all of them, gentrified. There's a lot of articles about gentrification in the city. But as they became gentrified, the rents go up.
Right.
We can't afford, even though we're the ones who physically emptied the trash from the industrial period
Right.
out of those buildings.
Right.
And remodeled those buildings
Right.
and made the address a hip address.
Right. And kept a lot of those bars and restaurants in the neighborhood with some cash running through the register.
Yes, because, right. When I was at Skunk House, which is an infamous building on the corner of First Avenue and First Street, and that's right at the edge of the Minneapolis garage music thing, the pre-punk day or whatever you want to call that. It's like everybody's up at, starts with an L, the bar.
Longhorn.
The Longhorn Bar, right? That was it. So, but Skunk House starts to develop at that same time. It's a loose group of about maybe 6 or 10 artists, bunch of dogs.
Right.
And it's like, there were no cops, there was no
Right.
street lights, there was no nothing.
Right.
It was like, and we'd walk back and forth through
But
the
no
neighborhood.
crime either.
Nobody ever bothered me,
Yeah.
ever.
Right.
Now I go downtown, I get nothing but a hassle.
Yeah, right. I hear you.
Yeah. So we get financially kicked out, evicted, and so now what are you going to do? Well, pioneers like Stuart Nielsen had taken over some smaller spaces up here of independent storefronts.
Right.
So that's this neighborhood got developed, a small users
So when did you
coming
move
in.
to Northeast?
And then I moved in Northeast because it was the same
What
problem.
year?
Oh, I think my first actual time renting up here is like 1985 or 6.
Okay.
We move up here, we get an apartment home, like, duplex. And then I had a studio over on Olson, which was a rat hole. But I had this big sculpture. I was making the history of Rome.
Can we jump back for a minute?
Yeah.
Walt Dietzick.
Oh, the Walt story. Yeah, I walk into Elsie's, and then Walt's sitting there, and
He was the guy, for those of you that don't know Northeast
Yeah.
or don't know Minneapolis politics, Walt Dietzick was the godfather. He was a retired cop and then became one of the go-to council guys in town.
Yeah.
Good guy, though.
A good guy. But Walt comes up to me and goes, Aldo, I never understood it. but you guys are actually like the new immigrants, aren't you? And I go, yeah, exactly. He goes, and I said, yeah, and we vote.
Right.
He goes, yeah, I'm starting to catch on with this. He's so funny. You know, he was a real politician.
His daughter Carrie, who's a
Still
state
our
senator,
senator, yeah.
she came to my birthday gig on Friday.
Yeah, she's
and
sweet.
so I wanted to send her directions, and so I was trying to email her and try to spell Dietzig. That's all I can say.
It's all.
It took me 10 tries. So great, though, following in her dad's footsteps.
Yeah, and really important part of the, the community. We've always had a political arm of this, you know. In our community, progressive liberal, we're as blue as it gets.
Yeah.
Over the top. Bunch of tree huggers hidden in the midst,
And Mayberry.
And maybe, yeah. So, and the whole thing about tied into the progressive green agenda, it's like it's part of the natural mode of it. And it's like I have friends who, are Trumpsters who like to, fight with me and such.
Right.
And they really don't understand.
Right.
That, no, this is a different part of the country. We just
Right.
really fundamentally do not agree with your ideas about personal wealth and that God loves me and that's why I get more.
Yeah, right.
It's like, nah, I don't
Yeah,
want to
we
be part of
happen
that.
we happen to love fresh water, our families,
Our neighbors.
artists, people that work
Yeah,
hard, our
right.
neighborhood, our neighbors, yeah.
Yeah, it's like that's what builds this community, which is a confrontation that I'm having now. I don't know how you guys loop this, but it's, the confrontation with death is, okay,
Right.
you're in your place on the planet, are you or not?
Right.
And everyone really does have this place on the planet. And in my place where I live in the most beautiful apartment I can ever imagine. It looks at my waterfall. I refer to it as my waterfall on
Been at
my
your
river,
place.
right?
You've got the nicest view, Aldo.
Yeah.
Of anybody in
And there's
Minneapolis.
my city,
Right.
and my eagle flies by,
Yeah.
and it's like...
And
it's,
your river.
Yeah, and then I've got this studio that I built, and it's a perfect life. And then God says, or whoever she is,
Right.
says, I got a funny joke idea. So now the guy's got it figured out, right? He's happy at home with his two
Right.
boys.
He's cruising.
He's cruising along. He's making his sculptures. He's making his little houses and having
got
fun.
his space together.
Let's end the game. That's not funny.
Right.
That's
right.
dark humor.
Yeah.
You're a sadistic. I mean, really.
So when you
Why would you
first-
do that to a
yeah.
guy?
So
I lived my whole life, out of an ash can. How could you do this to me?
finally at the top of the heap.
Well, not the top of the heap, but it's like, my view is very
But it's
sweet.
your heap.
It's not Paris, but guess what? I like it. Yeah.
Well,
My
what did-
neighbors, the whole thing.
What did Aldo when the doctor came in? You said the doctor had a tear in his
Yeah.
eye.
Her
And
eye.
he told
Yeah.
you her eye.
Yeah. Dr. Ribano.
What was your first reaction, and what the hell was the drive home, and then how the hell did you
Yeah.
tell your kids?
Well,
Take as long as you need to talk about any of those things.
But, I was doing the biopsy test on the pancreas, right? So I do that, and I go home, and then I get a call about 2 hours later from Dr. Ribano herself. And she says, we're going to schedule an appointment right away for you to come in tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock. So I hang up the phone, and I'm like going, that's not good.
No, that's not
the
good.
doctor doesn't call you. The office calls
And they don't have appointments the next day appointments.
At 8 o'clock.
Anywhere.
Right.
Yeah.
Unless you got to tell somebody some real shit.
Right.
Stevens Gallery Co-op.
1972?
2 or 3.
Who made the poster, do you know?
Some drunken hippie. I don't know.
Well, he was nice enough to put your name right in the middle of it.
Fantastic. Well, I didn't make it myself, if that's the question. No, it was probably Tommy Attridge.
What is this? How long did it take you to do it? And when did you do it?
Okay. This is the 7th Tower of Babel. And the Tower of Babel came from an imaginary place called Babylon. Although, of course, there is a real Babylon. It actually existed. It's part of biblical history. That map up there, that's Babylon. And this was the big temple built, the Tower of Babel built. And it's actually modeled on Bruegel, a painting, very famous suite of paintings. I think there are 9 total, where he used this motif because all he understood was the Colosseum in Rome. He had never been to the Middle East, so he had no way of understanding what Iraq was. My project, Babylon, starts after the 9/11 events in 2002. Is that right? Yeah, 2002. And then it goes up to 2008, where I created and destroyed it, a mythological place of Babylon. From the Sumerian, Proto-Literate Sumerians, all the way up through the Assyrians, and into the Babylonians, and onto the Persians, and onto Alexander, and on into the Islamic Caliphate, and then finally into current-day Iraq and the war in Iraq. So this piece was built as a protest against the war in Iraq. And it's ceramic block put together with concrete. It's got a wax water base on it. And this little ditty, it's about, I don't know, maybe 600, 800 pounds, somewhere in there. Yeah, and it's all about playing out the game of the history of the world where I am the emperor. Why not?
How long did it take you?
This one went on, this particular one, just only about 1 year of actual interaction with the piece, but the larger piece takes 8 years.
8 years.
Yep, where I build and destroy it over and over in live performances. And it's supported by citizen patrons who contribute to it, like the Catholic family, people like that.
Wow.
Yeah.
And those windows go all the way around.
Yeah.
Every single one of them have the detail of the split, whatever they call it, the split panels, or...
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it looks like there's almost blinds on some of them. It's like...
Well, this is a stamping technique, really simple. I was doing an art fair, so I'm doing this art fair, and the people from Amico Clay come over, hey, Aldo, come here. And they want to sell me this material. No, they want me to sell it for them. If I would use it and then sponsor it, they could sell it or whatever. And I go, like, I had to tell you, but you know, I get mine out of the dumpster. I get sticks, and then I carve them down to make the window stamps, right? You know, it's like that's, you know, we've been doing this for about 10,000 years since we were monkeys, you know? It's like, geez.
This is the way the monkeys used to do it.
Yeah, I really don't, yeah. I'm not a genius, I'm just a monkey. Making stuff, you know? So, yeah, I knew, so I took my son, Aldo 3L, and I took a good friend of mine, Remo Campapiano, because I had been advised by some people that when you're going to go into a meeting like that, take other people because you won't remember. It's like being in a car crash. You're not going to remember what happened.
It's that traumatic.
It's that traumatic. And so that's when we have the conversation. And she says, you know, and she explains it to me, you know, all of it. It's like as clearly as she can. She goes, this is not treatable. This is not, you know, it's like there's ways to make you more comfortable, but, you know, this is a terminal illness and it's on the quick. Wow. You know, so it's like.
And how long ago was that, Aldo?
This was, this meeting is last month. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. So, but I've been, you know, 6 months I've been misdiagnosed.
Yeah.
So, and my question is, does that come off my clock?
Yeah,
or
yours?
Yours?
Right.
Who picks up that time?
Yeah.
You know?
Can you put a few more days on?
I didn't punch in any of those days.
Yeah, right.
You know, so I'm not in on this for that whole 6 month period. Forget it. I haven't seen a paycheck from anybody forever. You know. So anyhow, you are, you know, you go out and then you ask your friend and your son, you say, you know, okay, what did you hear, man? You know, and it's like, well.
Was it kind of like that? Were you kind of like astounded? And so they were right?
Surreal.
It was surreal. It wasn't quite registering.
No, it doesn't register. And I don't think it has yet. I still go through, my emotional roller coaster is one story, but then the other story is that about, you know, do I accept it? Am I angry about it? Do I laugh at it? Because I got this warning. So the doctor says, this is it. Get yourself packed and ready, right? I get to make peace with the world.
Right.
I get to square up my situation as best I can. I get to put away my toys and clean up my mess. You know, and I get to tell the people that I care about.
Leave no clutter.
And leave no clutter behind. Yeah, that's really a great blessing.
Because
so
there's only two ways, too. There's usually the bus
Yeah.
You're not getting hit by the bus. Boom, it's over
Right.
like that. Or the
That's
situation
right.
that you've got.
The majority of us,
Yeah.
you're walking down the street and everything's swelling, and boom, you're out.
Yeah.
You know, for any variety of reasons.
You don't have time to clean up your room.
And you don't get to clean your room. Yeah, and that terrible letter you wrote to your third ex-wife, your children are going to find. Yes, and they're going to know what a freak you are. You're right. So you got to burn that stuff. Don't let the children find nasty notes.
Yeah. And erase everything off your search engine,
Yes, clean your search engines, exactly.
even if it was just for philosophical reasons.
Philosophical reasons.
So, I'm just going to ask you point blank, Aldo, because
Yeah.
we're tight friends. So, how long did they give you?
They don't do that in
Okay.
reality. They do that on
Well,
TV.
good. That's good. Okay.
Yeah, they do that on TV.
Well, we
but
are
they'll
on TV.
tell okay. They'll say months, not years.
Right. Okay.
They'll say things like that, but they don't, because they're going to be wrong almost 100%. No
Right.
matter what they say, it's going to be. You could go 2 months extra. You could go 2 months shy.
Right.
You know, again, you could get hit by a bus.
Right.
You know what I mean? Statistically, they're not in control of that, and they know that. And the other one that's weird about this pancreatic cancer thing is that it's understood to a certain degree, but it's like the cause relationship. Why does cancer attack the pancreas? What's
Right.
that about? They don't know. And there is a lot of good science being done in the earlier stages. People are being treated and surviving for decades.
Right.
And that's true with pancreatic. They can have surgeries, partial surgeries, whole surgeries. You can actually technically live without a pancreas
Right.
if you self-administer all your drugs.
Right.
But you can do it, and they know how to chemically do it. So it's changing. But in my case, that's not the option. And it's like, that's really hard for others, especially. I had one this morning. Somebody sent me a beautiful, well-intentioned note. And it's about, have you seen this TED Talk, And
Right.
I have. And the point being, here's this thing about the 4% and how
Right.
come there are 4% survivors. And there are 4% that
Right.
survive to some degree, meaning
Right.
less than 5 years. So they do. But, it's, you can't live with those odds. You can't,
Right.
the reality of it is that it's going to happen.
Right.
So if you take it like that, I think it's, for me at least, it's easier to manage. What I really hate is the term, so-and-so died from a magnificent struggle with cancer.
Right.
Fuck, like it's a boxing match that you're
Right.
going to win.
Right,
You know what I
right,
mean?
right,
Really?
right. Yeah, I get it.
It's not a magnificent struggle. Chemo is an ugly, terrible, nasty
sucks.
thing.
It sucks. Yeah.
And radiation's worse.
Yeah.
And it's not nice, and it's not cute, and it's
No.
it's just an ugly reality.
Yeah. And
So-
for the most part, it's really, in this American medical system, health system, is really freaking expensive.
And it's really, although that was the thing I loved about this doctor, was she goes, I'm not going to steal your money and your kids' money, because she goes, I know your situation. I'm not going to go in and do this.
Wow.
Because they can promise you the moon.
Yeah.
You should go to Mayo.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
No, I should not go to Mayo.
Right.
I live in Minneapolis. I have 12 doctors on my case. They all went to college.
Right.
It's like, it's fine.
Right.
So yet another blessing.
Another-
They didn't mess with you, that they said, okay, this is it.
Oh, she was straight up, and I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
It's like that's what you want, is you want someone get honest with me here. It's like, I understand that, we could spend fortunes and we can do tests. And the funniest one is, I'm not a subject for tests, because,
Right.
but they did want to do one research thing related to drinking and smoking, right? So I go, okay, fine.
Perfect.
It was just an interview thing. So I go, okay, fine, but then they keep on going, now you understand that none of this is going to affect you. And I go, yeah, I get it. I get it. Stop telling me.
Give me another drink.
Yeah, we want to, yeah, right. Get me a drink. Yeah, I'll tell you the truth. Jesus. But yeah, it's fucked up.
Although I got to ask you, I can't imagine, because I met your two sons. I've seen them
Yeah.
several times. That must have been really hard to tell them.
Well, their mother, Kimberly Moroni, is married to Matt Lesh, who's a guy I trust. They're like hunter fisher people, and I'm like,
Right.
where's the taxi cab kind of thing? You know what I mean? Yeah. But, everyone, different strokes,
sure,
all
yeah.
right? Everybody gets to do their own thing.
Yeah.
But they're good, and they're not going to hurt my boys. They're not going to rob my boys or none of that.
Right.
You know what I mean? They do nothing but bend over backwards to help all of my kids.
Right.
So I invited them over to my house, and the boys and I, we had dinner. We made, I think we made spaghetti and meatballs, as I recall. I think they make the spaghetti and meatballs.
Right.
But then, it's 5 pounds of spaghetti.
Right,
And there's
right.
like 3 cans of tomato sauce. I don't know. Anyway,
Right.
I wonder why I'm sick. But so the boys cook, yeah, right? Because I've been teaching them how to cook. That's pretty
Good.
fun. Yeah. So anyhow, we're having dinner, and then we start to talk about all of it, and you can see it in their face that they hear the words and they understand, death, that Dad's going to die.
Right.
And we don't mince it with them or any of that stuff. And Dad's going to get really, really sick, and things will change, so we talk about that. And then, later on, the boys, after Mom and Matt leave, the boys, so Dad, are you still going to be able to watch Colbert at night? I go, oh yeah, I'll be there. Yeah, right, yeah. Oh yeah, what time is it? Yeah, turn on Colbert. Turn on my program.
Right. Just make sure you get reception up there, right?
That's what counts.
Yeah.
Is Dad still going to be? Yeah. Do we have ice cream tonight? Yeah. There'll be ice cream.
Everything will remain the same at a certain level.
Yeah. So I've been down it from, and with others, I've been down this road. But when you're in the driver's seat, it's a different deal. Okay, hi everybody. This is, we're in right now a studio that's called Legacy Maker's Place. And right now I'm sitting with Lisa Roy. Lisa Roy is a fine artist who works in photography, media, materials, mixes different new technologies and things. But she's involved in, also has a commercial practice, and then also is involved in hair design and that world. But she's also a natural-born manager, and she's here with us because she is going to take over after I pass. This space, we didn't know quite what to do about having this space work as a functional community arts space. So one of the ways to be able to do this is to convert it over to a nonprofit. So we're going to organize it as a 501c3. It'll be its own entity, and then there will be a board that'll be arranged to be able to operate the space and be able to find a director of the programming here, of the space, the schedules that go with it. We've been talking with Lisa Roy seriously about stepping into the role. Yeah, so what would happen in this space when I get out of it?
Well, ideally we keep it what you want it. So classes, artists can come in and have exhibits. There's a workshop in the back, a clay and wood shop, and just have a place for artists to come in, because there really isn't too many places like that around. So that's the goal, and I would want to keep it, as close to your original thought and dream for the place, and continue your legacy.
Yeah, I think that would please me greatly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be very cool, because it's like the idea of it'll go on, and you guys will let it become whatever it becomes. I don't have a vote anymore. Sorry, you don't get a vote. But, we built something really good here.
Yeah, we
and
did.
I don't want to shut it down.
No.
So Lisa's going to be the one who's going to be pestering all of you for some donations and some help and some all of those things. And then when you want to know where you can send your kid for a clay class, you'll call Lisa, see?
Right.
Not me. Don't call me, because I'm not answering. All right.
You're answering a different call.
Yeah.
You want to give me information as to how to get a hold of you?
On social media, at Facebook and Instagram pages at Aldo Moroni Studios. The website is aldomoronistudios.com. So if you reach out to any one of those channels, that's me who manages it. So that's how you get a hold of me.
Right. Yeah. It's a whole different deal. But I remember it, and I don't fear. Do you fear death?
No, I don't. I actually believe in some form of the afterlife. I call it heaven, whether it's you're going to go back and be, winning that championship Little League game with your buddies or with your mom and dad, young,
That's your
25
heaven?
years old in the stands. I didn't know about
People
that.
are making fun of me and just smushing my face in the dirt.
Well, there was that part of it. But, for me, it's like, and I understand, I have a lot of friends that are atheists. But, you look out this window today on the Northeast. We're floating on a globe in the middle of space.
Phenomenal.
And we have the sun that keeps us warm. We have air to breathe, and we have water to drink. And we are on a ball floating in space. There's got to be more here than meets the eye.
Yeah. And I think there's that whole thing about, number one, we don't know about the after, and we didn't know about the before.
Right.
So you don't know.
Right.
Everything you know has to do with this dimension.
Right.
And your interpretation of this dimension.
What do you think Aldo Moroni's legacy as an artist will be? And go ahead and brag if you want.
Well, sure, I will. My legacy is that in the United States, back to the thing about art education and all of that, New York School, blah, 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 I'm one of 700,000 artists that were produced in 1976. And every year since, there have been 70,000 artists in the United States coming in to this dialogue. So the notion that because I don't live in New York, and I'm lucky, I got my name in the art magazine a few times.
Right.
It's like I got a break.
Right.
I really got every break there is.
Right.
But I'm a provincial artist. But like in Oklahoma right now, there's some artist doing an interview with his radio friend. Kansas City there is.
Right.
Orlando there is. There is in Toronto. So in North America, there's all of these different artists in all these different creative communities. So the notion, just like we're not the center of the universe on the planet,
Right.
we're also not the center of the creative world.
Right.
It can happen anywhere. Florence had 600 studios.
Right.
600 studios is nothing to build the entire Renaissance.
Right. Right. Right.
It's
Right.
600 studios, 6,000 artists. There's all the different people who worked in the studios. 6,000 artists in the entire region,
Right.
are creating this revolution. Along with the Age of Enlightenment, hot on the heels, but it's like so. It doesn't. It's not. It's not the size of the place.
Right.
It's not. I don't think it's the geography of the place.
Right.
I think it's the community that comes together and the people. So.
Right.
And then the Medici too, the money behind it, the patrons. We always forget the patrons in
Yeah.
these discussions. The customers in the bar make the music happen.
Right.
When you put your $5 in the bucket,
Right.
it's like
It adds
honest
up.
to God. It's
adds
like you
up.
pay to ride the bus, don't you?
Right.
And it's like art. It's like these people have to survive. So. This is a real thing. So one of the things, my greatest accomplishment is that I'm one of the 700,000 or 70 million
Yeah.
creative spirits on the planet, and I'm in the dialogue in a meaningful way. And have I mentored people? Have I had an influence on them? Yes, I have. Other people mentored me. I am a
Right.
link in a chain. I'm not the most important. I'm not the least important, but I am a link in a chain. It goes all the way back to my professor Herbert Munzer and to his teachers before him in Europe, and what becomes New York School, blah blah blah.
Right.
And then it goes all the way back into the Renaissance, and then it goes all the way back into ancient history, and the potential of my being able to influence a young artist and bring someone along. Is what makes the work number one significant,
Right.
because it's in big time. So
Right.
your voice is in big time. Are you the one? Are you the authority of everything? Are you the boss? No, you're
Right.
not.
You don't necessarily want to be the boss.
You don't want to be the boss. It's really good to be in the circus.
Yeah.
It's really fun.
And people have been supporting the project by buying those and either taking them home, or they buy them and they put them on this mountain, which is covered right now, but I suppose we could finishing the project.
Oh, that is super cool.
Super cool.
What are we looking at?
Right here, we're looking at the mountain, which has changed from Aldo's original plan, which was going to be 3 to 5 years, where he would build up and chronicle Mesoamerica. it's turned into now a social art project because he can't finish it and he can't go through
So
contribution to the mountain.
But Aldo made the house.
Aldo did make the house.
And then they make the donation.
Yep, over here. Yep, so that person had chosen to, instead of take the house home, they supported this project by buying the house to put it on there.
Wow.
Um,
So ideally, all the buildings are on the mountain, spread across all of this.
Yep. Maybe it'll stay here for 6 months and then it'll move to a different spot and continue to be a public art thing. The future of that is a little bit unknown at this point, and it kind of just depends on all the fundraising efforts and everything else.
So if someone wants to contribute and add to this project, can they just show up here, knock on the door during regular office hours, call you, make a...
Yeah, they could contact the Aldo Moroni Studios website or Facebook page just to make sure. We'll be trying to, post times where people can come in and do that as we know them. And another way you can support the project if you're not here is aldomoronistudios.com/support, and that will help fund this project.
And what's the actual address of Aldo's studio? Something California. Really? You don't know?
I think it's 2205, but hold on. Michael, what's the address here?
Mine is right here.
I just drove here.
Nobody knows.
2205.
California Street Northeast.
We were talking about Blind Cortez here.
Yes.
Fantastic. Fantastic. And I want to get a shot with you before we go, and she's going to take it.
Although this has been so great, we're going to take a little tour of your studio. But I got one question from Paul Metsa to Aldo Moroni. Are you considering donating your body to science fiction?
Science fiction. Yes, that's the idea.
That's
Science
the
fiction.
ticket.
That is the ticket. Yes.
No, but
Would you be cloned?
Isn't there another one of me running around somewhere?
Yeah,
That's
you
where
wish.
that's where the shitty reputation
That's exactly
comes
right.
from.
I wish. Yeah, that would be real swell.
Aldo,
But no.
we're going to see each other again. I know this is not
Yes.
the last time, so
Yeah.
I'm not going to start to cry, but I just want to tell you how much I love you and how much you mean to the people in Minneapolis, St. Paul.
Thanks, brother.
All right. Love you. Thank you. Thanks so much for watching Wall of Power TV. I'm your host, Paul Metsa, here every week. Stick around, same time next week, same station. We'll save you a seat. And I want to thank my good buddy, Aldo Moroni, for being such a cool cat.
So this is where all the magic happens,
This is
huh?
where the magic happens.
And the dust can settle.
And the dust can settle. And you're seeing it right after a show set up. This is the real workshop. It's a mess right now. But when it's cleaned up, it's a highly functional shop which has a variety of tools. And our idea here is that people would be able to come in and work and play and make things and take classes and interact. So we've got all the tools that we need, big kilns, all that stuff. So I would suggest getting in touch with Lisa Roy at aldomoronistudios.com or Facebook, Aldo Moroni Studios, or Instagram. She says hashtag, but I'm an old man, I don't know how to say hashtag. So you all be good to each other, show love and peace, and see you on the other side.
Santa paid a visit to Aldo Moroni Studios last night, and we have the door locked, the lights are off, and Maxie and the gang are about to arrive, but it's all a surprise.